Have you ever had one of those mornings when you've woken up and you've thought, well, what's the point? Who wants to hear from me? Who's interested in what I'm doing? Just that negative sort of spiral. And in that moment, it can feel like you've lost all belief in yourself. And that's what happened to me this morning. But what I've learned is that those moments aren't actually about losing confidence. They're about the nervous system being out of sync and what can be done to kind of get yourself back into that state of mind. So it's important to notice that belief dips happen to everyone. And I think that it's very easy when we have them to think that we're having them and nobody else has them. Nobody has a wobble. And actually, when you speak to people, the higher up they go, then they still have those wobbles. They can be like really successful, have millions of followers online, be making fortunes, and they still have those wobbles where they think, why? Why would anybody be interested in what I've got to say? It's a form of imposter syndrome, but it's not quite the same. You know that you're kind of there for a reason, but you just don't understand why. Um, and if you're in a creative profession or you're an entrepreneur or you're doing something for yourself, it's kind of part of the course in the industry and in doing things in any business as you go up the ladder. It's part of the course to kind of feel those moments. And you know, it's important to kind of put this all into perspective because your confidence is your mindset. Okay, it's how you think about things, but you need to be regulated to have that mindset. And when we feel unsafe and we feel dysregulated, and this can go both ways. So we feel unsafe, we feel dysregulated, that goes up and that knocks our confidence. And then we start to wonder why, and maybe a bit of imposter syndrome sneaks in. But also we can get those moments where we feel like where we're thinking about things and our confidence dips mentally, and that feeds back into our body and that dysregulates us, and then that goes us into another loop. So they're both feeding into each other. And so once one happens, it feeds into the other, which feeds back, and you're feeding that loop constantly. And the more you stay stuck in that mental spiral, the more it goes down and down and down. And, a lot of the time we're taught, think positively, get yourself out of that mental spiral by changing your thoughts. But what happens is if we still feel dysregulated in our bodies, it's actually really, really hard to change how we think because our brain is stuck in that psychological loop and our body is reinforcing it. So what we need to think about is that actually sometimes our body just needs a little bit of regulation to bring it down to that safe level. And then it allows us to change what we're thinking, change those patterns and get out of that negative spiral mentally. And then because we've broken the loop essentially. So rather than the mind thinking something, body feeding it back, mind going further, body feeding it back, the body starts to feed back safety. And so the mind goes, oh, do I really feel this lack of confidence? Because I feel safe doing this and I feel comfortable. So we're feeding that back in a loop, in a loop, in a loop, in a loop. So when we have something that maybe is triggering us, so maybe we come across an event that is big and scary. I've got something coming up at the moment that I'm launching. It's big, it's scary, it's exciting, it's lots of growth happening. Mentally, physically, emotionally, this whole stuff's going on. There's lots of growth going on for me. And business-wise, there's growth. So that's caused a spike in cortisol. And because I'm not doing anything that's causing me to be great, and I've just discovered today that I have ADHD, so my dopamine levels may be quite low, my cortisol's high. And so that causes, because then my body feels out of whack, my brain can lose perspective. And this can happen to anybody. It's normal, right? It's a perfectly normal reaction and a normal way of being. So in real life, it feels like self-doubt, overthinking, and almost a sense that you're slipping backwards. And like you're not making the progress that you wanted to make. And that's not necessarily true, but it's all about perspective. And mine today was a lot about a launch that I'm about to have. It's really big, it's really exciting. And I've got almost 2 launches happening at the same time because of the way that things have happened. And I feel like there's a lot of pressure on it. I feel like there's a lot of pressure on me because it's like, it's got to work. Well, some of those things are self-made loops in my brain. And because I'm putting that pressure on myself and that cortisol is rising, that anxiety is going boom, 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 boom. The result is dysregulation. And then the story behind the dysregulation. And I say this quite a lot, and it's always important to remember that the story you tell yourself about the dysregulation isn't necessarily true. Okay, so we have this kind of like push-pull. What the body feels is real. So the fear, the dysregulation, the uncomfortable feelings, they are real. They are physiological things happening in the body that you can feel. But the brain needs to interpret them. And the way in which your brain interprets them may vary depending on what's happening in your life. So it's always important to take your brain's explanation for things with a pinch of salt and so come back to the come back to the body, regulate the body, let the body feel good. Then you can address what's going on with your thought patterns. And it's always important to remember that these dips, right, they don't actually mean you've lost self-belief. I actually have quite a lot of belief in myself. I am scared, right? And I'm also excited at the same time. So they're kind of all muddled in together because excitement and fear feels exactly the same internally. But there's lots going on. So I have that strong belief, but it's still, there's stuff happening. So it's causing temporary dysregulation up and down. And I'm kind of like learning to live with the fact that dysregulation happens. And I think this is one of the things that's coming through me quite a lot, as I'm doing more and more of this work, is that being dysregulated is actually quite normal. We will spend a lot of our days going from regulated to dysregulated to regulated to dysregulated, right? And the job as us, people, what we're doing is to figure out not why we're dysregulated. It's to bring ourselves back to regulated so then we can analyze what happened and then we can realize it. And actually, the more we get used to bringing ourselves back to regulated, the easier it happens. And we're not doing this practice thinking, oh, I'm never going to get dysregulated. It's never going to happen because I'm always going to be regulated. And then we're going to be disappointed when we're dysregulated because something will trigger us, something will happen, or we'll just feel dysregulated for some random unknown reason. Or we come across an event that's scary and that will dysregulate us. And our systems are designed to dysregulate, to warn us that something's happening. And if it doesn't happen, if we don't get that warning signal, then we don't know. Now, if your warning signal is something you can't do anything about, like an event coming up and there's nothing you can actually physically do to change it, or you're waiting for results or something so you can't actually change it, then you can work on regulating through that state. But understanding that dysregulation is your body telling us that this is quite scary, this is happening, or that's happening, or this is happening for me. So it's just listening to that. And it's not about, that's why we can't just blindly think positively. It's why positive thinking often, mostly, nearly always, doesn't work, right? Believe me, I've tried it. You try it. You think, oh, I'm going to think positively. If you are dysregulated, positive thinking just doesn't sit in your body. Your body will just keep fighting it and the negative stuff will keep coming up to the surface. So body first, then you can address how you're thinking. So yeah, this is all part of my rhythm, and I'm sure you've got your rhythm and you'll notice how it works and how you come back and how you go out. And it's just about finding ways to come back to regulated state more easily. So, to get that, we can do something like this together. So one of the things you can do is just sit nicely on a chair. Now, I like to do this on a chair sitting upright because I can have a support behind my back. And having your feet flat on the floor always helps to ground you. So you can feel your feet connected with the floor and feel them, feel that connection. Become aware of the jaw. Is the jaw clenched? So unclench the jaw. Yeah, pull funny faces, it's fine. Release any tension here. And relax your shoulders. Just allow them to drop down. I spend a lot of time up like this. I've noticed when I record myself, I can actually see myself with shoulders up there. So that's a sign of tension. So just learning to release them and let them go. And then we can do some nice, long, deep breathing. So inhale and blow out through a straw. And again, inhale. And one more time, inhaling deeply. Just let the breathing return to normal. Feeling the feet on the floor again. Feeling if any tension's crept in anywhere, just letting it release. And you can just say to yourself, this doubt is a signal, not the truth. It's just a signal. And just feel that in your body. You might put your hands on your heart if it feels better. And just feel it. And these are the little moments where you can regulate, where you can bring yourself back down. And if you find you do that and you're still feeling some dysregulation, you can do more. You can do little practices, bringing it back, easing it off, taking the edge off anxious feelings or self-doubt. And knowing that you don't necessarily, sometimes if you have a pattern of anxiety where you live in a more anxious state more often, it's not about stripping it down to nothing straight away. It's about dripping it out so that gradually that anxiety has less of a hold, less of an impact, and you're gradually easing it down. So if you think of anxiety as like a well that you have, and when you're right at the top and you have a panic attack, your anxiety well is full. And if we live with our anxiety well where we've already got this much gap in it, then when something happens, we very easily go over the top. So if we think about just gradually dripping stuff out of it, so maybe we've got that much space, that gives us a little bit more of a buffer, and just thinking about that and how we can just gradually reduce the amount of rubbish in our anxiety well and come back down to a better state. So that's kind of like part of it. Hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, remember to like and subscribe so you can come back and see some more stuff. And if you would like to connect more deeply and I've got loads of little practices like this inside my free group, The Sacred Pause, and I will drop the link in the comments for you to click on and come and join me because I'd love to see you on the inside.